Hello, I'm Stephen Asher, the creator of the Cyclete, here at Cyclete Cottage. Today I'm here to share with you the components that make up our bottom bracket and crankset. It starts with this massive bottom bracket spindle with this tapered lobe spline. It's made from 2024 aluminum, the stuff that aircraft landing gear is made from, really tough stuff. So we begin by applying our grease. We use this white lining clear grease to the spindle, to the tapered lobes and the surface that the bearings will ride upon. It's not there to let the bearings slide, but rather to let the bearings seat properly when doing assembly. I'll do that on the other side. And that lets the tapered lobes seat fully and lets the bearings seat properly. So a little light grease. I will set this aside and we'll put a little, we have our bearing cups that have 3042 bearings made by Enduro. They're stainless with a double lip seal. We'll add some grease to the inside surface to help retain the bottom bracket shell. It just helps to hold it in place. And we will place our spindle into the bearing, and that's seated along with our shell. Okay, maybe I should show you. So we have the spindle seated in the bearing and then the shell concentric around it. Now we're going to add a little bit of blue Loctite. We like to use 2043 to the threads of the frames bottom bracket shell. It's a little confusing. We have shells on shells. Then we insert this into the bottom bracket shell, and the right side has a left-hand thread, so we're going to turn that counterclockwise. And then we will use our bottom bracket tool with a torque of 54 foot-pounds. You'll see it has this 8-tabbed, it's a tool that's available at tack shops. And again, this is going to turn counterclockwise, and we're going to torque that, make sure it's seated to 54 foot-pounds. Okay. Now we're going to repeat this on the other side. So we'll take this bearing cup, looks a little bit different. It doesn't have the shoulder around it. I'm going to take this and our blue Loctite. I'll come over to this side. We'll add our blue Loctite to those threads. We'll insert our bearing cup. This has a right-hand thread, and make sure that it goes in nice and easy. And then we will tighten this to 54 foot-pounds as well, turning it clockwise. All right. Now we're going to install our cranks. So we have our chainsaw crank. Again, it has this lovely tapered lobe spline. We've already greased the splines. We're going to add some blue Loctite to the threads. And we'll use a 10mm hex key, insert it into the bolt. We'll set it on here, and we begin by threading the bolt into the bottom bracket spindle. And we're going to use our torque wrench, and that's going to be set to what's written on the crank is, if you see it, 45 to 54 Newton meters, but that's also about 40 foot-pounds. So we're going to set our torque wrench accordingly. And then it's really handy to use a rubber handle and to use that to help hold the crank from spinning while you apply torque to it. So sometimes I think I could use that third hand, the proverbial third hand, but we'll torque that up to 40 foot-pounds or 54 Newton meters. All right, and then we'll repeat on the other side. We'll take our tools over here, and we'll again apply the blue Loctite to the threads. We'll take our $10mm socket. We'll turn this 90 degrees to the other crank. It's a little easier if I take this off the wrench while getting it started. So we'll place the 10mm socket or hex in there. We'll get the thread started. I want to make sure that it's going into the threads properly. A little difficulty here. There we go. You never force a bolt. Always make sure it goes in nice and easy. You don't want to cross thread bolt. And again, we'll take that rubber handle and we'll brace it here. Hold this in place. You do this on camera. And we'll put our wrench in and torque that to 54 Newton meters or 40 foot-pounds. Okay. So, there we go. Our Cyclete bottom bracket crank set. Thing of beauty. Happy trails.